ET Now.
Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyansi Singh, and over the next 1 hour, me and Priyanka Uppal will be taking you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should be keeping an eye on, and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, let's take a look at what the US markets really did. And when you take a look at what really happened at the end of last week, the market was largely split at the end of last week. So when you take a look at the moves coming in on Friday, the tech-heavy Nasdaq is the one that jumped to a new intraday all-time high as well. So you're looking at a rise of just about 0.6% coming in for that one. On the flip side, you do have the Dow as well as the S&P 500. So the Dow is the one that shed just about 0.6%, closed around those 42,000 levels. Above that actually, and when you take a look at the broad market S&P 500 as well, you're looking at it just going a little bit lower, just a shade lower is where that one was at. But both the Dow and the S&P 500 snapped a 6-week winning streak, but the Nasdaq is the one that eked out its 7th positive week in a row. So that's the kind of move that you saw largely coming in. Now of course the Wall Street is bracing for a big week in terms of what the markets are looking at. That will mark the busiest week coming in of the third quarter earnings reporting season as well. That is something that we're keeping a very close eye on. Other than that, of course, this is a final week before the November 5 US presidential elections. Some volatility is being penciled in, along with a lot of updates coming in from the Magnificent Seven. You have 5 of the Magnificent 7 companies reporting. So you do have Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta Platforms, Amazon as well as Apple that is scheduled to report their third quarter earnings as well. That is something that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on. And in terms of what else is really important to watch out for this week, you do have traders watching out for a slew of key economic data. So I'm talking about September jobs report that is due this Friday. You do have the September personal consumption data or PCE price index also that is expected on Thursday, and a preliminary reading of the third quarter gross domestic product as well. That is also something that we're keeping a very close eye on. So that largely is the kind of handover that we have, at least when it comes to the Wall Street. But when you take a look at oil, then you're looking at a tumble coming in of more than $3 a barrel, at least for oil, after Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran over the weekend bypassed Tehran's oil and nuclear facilities and did not disrupt energy supplies as well. So that largely is something that you're seeing. Of course, there's easing geopolitical tensions, and because of all of these factors combined, you did see the last week being a little complex in terms of what really happened with Brent as well as US WTI, because you did see them just sort of tussle between gains and losses coming in through the course of the week. Both Brent and US WTI hit their lowest level since October 1 at the open as well, and the benchmarks gained 4% last week in volatile trade, just like I mentioned, as markets priced in that uncertainty around the extent of Israel's response to the Iranian missile attack as well. So that is largely something that we were watching out for, at least when it comes to the oil markets. But what really are the events that you should be watching out for? Priyanka, tell us a little more about what's on that list.
Morning, Shreyansi. Shreyansi, the way US markets are moving, there's no stopping. This is Nasdaq's 7th winning week, though that's a different story that in India, back home, we've corrected nearly 8%. But the key earnings, but then yes, starting this week, of course, we have a reason to be cheerful because we are approaching festivities. Diwali is nearby. But then what are the events to watch out for today? For Nifty, you will, Sun Pharma and Bharti Airtel, both the earnings would be on tap. Remember, Pharma and in fact, all that defensive pack, that has been the other packs which hasn't fallen that much, the way the kind of intensity we've seen in auto, or for that matter metal or mining or even real estate space. So Sun Pharma would be on tap. Bharti Airtel, Telecom pack has not been doing that bad. Bharti Airtel is on a move also. The earnings are here, and let's not forget the kind of earnings which Jio recorded. So there was a tariff hike element which came in, which was registered in Jio's number. That could be an element to watch out for in Bharti Airtel also. Now there are a couple of companies where they are mulling fundraising plans: Skipper, Kalpatru, Adani Power, and even Federal Bank. So these set of stocks could be in action ahead of the fundraising plans and the board meet. And of course, the Dr. Reddy's, that stock goes into stock split. 5:1 is the ratio. And Reliance also, in fact, some sort of movement also happened the day Reliance announced its bonus issue. So this week, this is the week to even eye Reliance, of course, a heavyweight. And the last day to buy shares to be eligible for dividends. That list will include stocks like Route Mobile and Infosys. And of course, the D-Day for Waaree Energy's IPO listing today. And let's not forget the record subscription we saw for Waaree Energy. So a lot of action in terms of earnings. US is also earning heavy week this whole week. In fact, mega cap earnings are on the tab, and that's what driving Nasdaq also.
Well, absolutely. Lots to keep an eye on this week. But let's take a look at global stories. Bright and early this morning, then Japan faces political upheaval as the ruling coalition loses its parliamentary majority for the first time since 2009. Projections show Prime Minister Ishiba's LDP Komeito alliance falling short, securing only 214 seats out of the 233 needed. This historic shift, sparked by inflation concerns as well as corruption scandals, has really rattled markets, with the yen weakening 0.5% against the dollar as well. Ishiba will likely convene top officials for an emergency session today as well, so keep an eye on that as well.
All right, but in the meantime, China's industrial profits, that one has dropped 3.5% year-on basis for the period from January to September. Now, this highlights struggles in the economic recovery for the country. Weak demand, deflation risk, and a property slump that had already weighted heavily on state and private sector profits. Both have been declining. Now, key industries like coal mining, machinery, and chemicals that saw sharp declines, while sectors like non-ferrous metals and even textile that one posted gains.
Moving on, then, Germany's finance minister Christian Lindner warns of retaliation if the US ignites a trade war with the European Union, calling it a lose-lose scenario. Speaking at the IMF's annual meeting, Lindner highlighted that potential US tariffs could harm the German economy, which is the former's top trading partner with US. China tensions also already high. Lindner urged diplomatic efforts to avoid escalating conflict with the EU.
Okay, moving on. The New York Stock Exchange has announced plans to extend their trading on its all-electronic exchange to 22 hours a day. Under the new plan, now the trading on the NYCI Arca Electronic Exchange, that will open at 1:30 a.m. and will close at 11:30 p.m. on weekdays. This is, though, subject to regulatory approvals.
Alright, moving on, then Iran said Israel's recent airstrikes caused limited damage after jets targeted missile factories near Tehran. The strike was in retaliation for Iran's October missile attack on Israel, and both countries exchanged warnings. As tensions rise, US President Joe Biden urged de-escalation. In fact, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu also asserted that the strikes were aligned with Israel's interests, and with the US calls for restraint, all eyes do remain on Iran's next move then.
All right, of course, in fact, that was a little unaffected. But then moving on, McDonald's has ruled out its quarter pounder patties as the source of a deadly E. coli outbreak. Now, tests by Colorado State Department found no traces of E. coli in the patties. Instead, silver onions from Taylor Farms in Colorado are now the likely culprit, according to the FDA. Now, this outbreak that impacted several states, with cases linked to store locations, including some in airports also.
Alright, then moving on. During her visit to the US, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman reaffirmed India's pro-investment stance, stating that no sector is off limits for private investment. Even sensitive areas, the likes of defense as well as space, are the ones that she mentioned, emphasizing India's red carpet approach over red tape. She also quoted PM Modi's commitment to easing business processes. Let's go across and listen into what exactly then she had to say.
What is holding the investors back? Why do global investors, going by the textbook, where economic activity is good and robust and dynamic, money flows there, is the normal textbook assumption. I want to ask, where are the investable funds? Where are the investors? Why are they looking at? What are they looking at? What's holding them back? So that's a question I like to pose. Even as I pose that question, I must recognize that India has received quite an appreciable number of FDIs. So that's not to say nothing comes to India. Yes, it is coming. Nothing stops them from coming and doing business. There are actually a lot of private banks already in India, private insurance companies already in India, private insurance companies which are not Indian, which are already in India. So private banks which are not in India, Stanchart, one of the biggest one, has more than 100 branches in India. So nothing stops them. And it's not a hasty thing saying, all right, you're saying that nothing stops them, but does it have a backing somewhere? Is it a policy? Is it written somewhere? Yes, it is written somewhere. 2021 budget under Prime Minister Modi clearly said there are only 4 areas in which government will also be present. There is no area in which private sector cannot come in. India has actually opened up every sector. That is why even in a sector which is very sensitive, defense production, a sector which is very sensitive, space, today you have private operations.
All right, that was the word coming in from FM. But then moving on, businesses across the country are eagerly waiting for the festive season for a boost to their sales. And JSW MG Motor India is in the same boat, especially after the latest launch, Windsor. My colleague Aishwarya Patil caught up with the Chief Growth Officer, Gaurav Gupta, to talk about how the new launches will help the automaker. Take a look.
Well, for MG in particular, because we are riding the wave of a new launch, the MG Windsor, so we definitely are expecting it to be better than last year because we have a new model introduction.
But any bit of uptick that you can sort of point out as compared to last year?
See, overall, what we are seeing as an industry, we are seeing low single digits or kind of growth from a passenger vehicle market. For MG in particular, we will be riding the wave of our new launch MG Windsor. We've got a lot of corrections and as well as introductions of our special editions coming in the marketplace, expansion of network. So on that wave, we will be looking at growth versus last year, and hopefully we'll try and beat the market growth.
So fair enough to say that the SUV segment is going to be one of the popular ones as far as consumer demand is concerned?
See, overall SUVs have been on the rise and have been doing well. And I think that momentum will continue. The reason for that also is that the choice that we have in SUVs is good for the customer. We are seeing good expansion of road network, which is also helpful for people to drive out, and therefore the stance of seating itself gives you that preference over SUV or for SUVs. So a couple of other factors coming together, and hence the momentum of SUV continues. Windsor, of course, we have positioned it as a crossover vehicle, and that will be creating a new segment by itself. So we call it the A segment pricing, B segment size, and C segment interior comfort.
Just rounding up the conversation with sales figures, October 2024 versus 2023, how has it been? If you could speak a little bit on the sales front.
Well, we have seen growth definitely, but not to the extent that one would have expected. And this has been seen across the industry, whether it is two-wheelers as well as four-wheelers. But at the same time, we still have the last week left. There's always that ticker which kind of just shoots up that we always believe in. It's a very action-packed month. You have Dussehra, you have Durga Puja, you have Diwali, so it's everything packed in 1 month. So fingers are crossed. Let's hope we all smile and have a much bigger smile towards the end of the month.
Alright, then that was the word coming in from the management at JSW Motor India. But it's time to take a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets are faring, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET now, and now time to take a check from Asian markets. Now, there are two key factors that will shape more of the movement coming in from Japan market. Of course, one, they're the ruling party, LDP, that has lost majority in the country's lower house, coupled with yen weakness, which has also weakened to fresh 3-month low against dollar. And now this is all what is grabbing attention, and we can see the outcome that Nikkei, which has it's fallen down by 1.75%. That's what I'm sorry. It's risen by 1.75%. We are nearly 2% up. This pack is leading gains in Asia. If you talk about topics, that is up nearly 1.5%, 1.38%. Will get you the other indices from Japan market topics, which is 1.4% up. Now, of course, clearly these moves, they're supported by a weaker yen, which has fallen 0.65%, which is trading at 153.28 on Monday. And this is again the 3 months low against dollar. Talking about other markets, South Korea's Kospi, that one has gained to nearly 0.5%. We'll get our, we'll just quickly check. It shows right now 0.5% down, but then while small cap, Kosdaq, that was nearly 1% higher. If you talk about Australian market, there the index ACX 200, that's one started the day with 0.11%, flat to positive, what we saw. So they will be the two key factors that how the movement shape in, the yen weakness again can carry the sentiment, or maybe they can revive, or we can revive the sentiment of the yen carry trade against dollar. That one has to be sharply watched out for.
Absolutely, we're definitely watching out for that, but let's take a look at the lineup that we have for you on the market, and it's a power-packed one because at 8:30 we'd be in conversation with Peter Elbers, Chief Executive Officer at Indigo as well. 9:20 then we'd be chatting with Hiren Ved, Director and Chief Investment Officer at Alchemy Capital Management, to talk to him about what is penciling in terms of Diwali and what he's really penciling in terms of the market as well. 9:30 then we'd also be in conversation with Jayant Acharya, the Joint MD and CEO at JSW Steel, to decode their earnings and to decode the earnings of IDFC First Bank. The top boss at the company is going to be chatting with us at 9:50 a.m. then, and to decode more about the market as well at 10 a.m. Victor Schwetz, Head of Global Desk Strategy at Macquarie Capital, will also be in conversation with us. 10:20 then we'd also be chatting with Group Shaman Car's top boss, as well as Vinkesh Gulati, Vice President Automotive Skills Development Council India and former President at PADA, as well, to decode what really they're penciling in terms of Motown then. And the listing of the day, no points for guessing, is going to be Vari Energies. So we'll be chatting with Hitesh Doshi, the Chairman and MD of the company, to decode what the growth map then for the company looks like.
All right, in the meantime, let's get you some more stories. The RK Khanna Stadium from Delhi, that was buzzed with energy over an action-packed 4 days as more than 750 players competed across various categories in the Grand Pickleball event. Now, with every event which must come to a close, let's dive into the highlights of the 4 days.
A new era of sports dawned in India with pickleball. The future of Indian sports transformed as pickleball made a powerful entry at Delhi's RK Khanna Stadium with the PWR DUPR India Masters. This 4-day event was an electrifying showcase of global athletic spirit, setting up a fierce rivalry with tennis and badminton. Pickleball is quickly becoming one of the fastest growing sports globally. Its appeal lies in its inclusivity. Regardless of age or gender, everyone can enjoy the game. For many, it becomes a lifelong passion. Increasingly, former tennis players are making the switch, drawn to the fast-paced, accessible nature of pickleball.
PWR Duper has India Masters 2024 has been a really big success because I've never seen 70 foreign players in one city in any sport. I don't think any sport, not even tennis, not even cricket, has got 70 players in one city at the same time. So this is huge. I've already built 10 courts in Bennett University. So I think this is going to be really successful and is going to be adopted by most Indians.
Top players from the United States, Australia, Netherlands and Taiwan joined the tournament. But India's champion Arman Bhatia delivered a tough challenge with unmatched energy and skill.
Welcome to the final day. Now all eyes.
The finale brought intense challenges, showcasing the tournament's best in women's and men's singles, doubles and mixed events. Australia's Sophia Sewing claimed the women's singles title, while India's Arman Bhatia took victory in the men's singles. Roos van Rijk and Caitlin Hart secured the women's doubles win, with Bhatia and van Rijk shining in mixed doubles.
2 out of 3 and 2 out of 2 for Rose.
The ultimate men's doubles crown went to Bhatia and Harsh Mehta. The 4-day event concluded with a joyful award ceremony. The excitement was palpable as champions were crowned on centre court.
I'm so happy to have won a Triple Crown in one of the biggest tournaments in India. And yeah, I'd like to thank all my partners, my team, and everyone who came down and supported me, my friends, family. Quick message to them is that I love you all and thank you so much for being there.
The PWR DUPR India Masters 2024 have embarked a new chapter in India's pickleball journey, setting a bar high for athletic spirit and leaving a historic mark.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get you some more news and updates then, and let's take a look at Adani Group's Renew Exim DMCC that is set to acquire 46.6% stake in ITD Cementation from Italian Thai Development at 400 rupees per share, marking a 25% discount there. The total transaction is valued around 3,200 crores. Now, the Adani Group will make the open offer to acquire a further 26% stake as well. Now, do remember that we had reported the details first earlier last week. In fact, Anurag Joshi, who broke this particular story, is standing by with more details on this. Anurag, tell us a little bit more about this as well then.
Conglomerate Adani Group plans to acquire an about 47% promoter equity holding in ITD Cementation, which is a civil construction and engineering company. Adani is planning to acquire this stake from the promoter, Italian Thai Development Public Company, which is a Thai construction firm. Adani will pay a total amount of about 3,200 crore rupees for buying this 47% equity stake. ET Now on October 23rd had broken the story that Adani Group was in the final leg of buying this equity stake. This purchase will be at a 25% discount to the current market price of ITD Cementation. In addition to this, the Adani Group is also planning to make an open offer for a 26% equity holding in ITD Cementation to all the shareholders of the company, and that will be at a price of almost 572 rupees for a consideration of closer to 2,600 crore rupees. ITD Cementation's promoter is a leading construction company in Thailand and whose projects include the BTS SkyTrain in Bangkok. ITD Cementation has implemented several infrastructure projects, and these include highways and rail bridges in India.
Looks like Adani Group is on an acquisition spree. Thanks very much, Anurag. Just states that they've acquired Orient Cement now. The Dubai-based entity have plans to acquire further ITD Cementation. Thanks very much, Anurag. Moving on, let's get you news from the telecom space. India's top private telecoms are likely to present a united demand for new SATCOM players. Now, this is to pay market-determined prices for spectrum. Telecom players have collectively spent 5.5 lakh rupees to acquire this spectrum, 5.5 lakh crore. In fact, it is understood that global giants like Elon Musk owned Starlink and even Amazon's Kapil are eyeing broadband services in India, and thus Reliance Jio, Vodafone Idea and even Bharti Airtel, they will make this demand to the regulator that if the SATCOM players are allowed to offer services in urban areas serving retail or enterprise customers, a level playing field has to be there where the terrestrial networks must be ensured. Now, the Cellular Operators Association of India is expected to make a submission to TRAI also for aligning and benchmarking pricing.
Well, absolutely. Let's keep it going with some more news and updates then, and let's take a look at what really is happening with the earnings season, because we do have ICICI Bank that has come out with a good set of Q2 earnings. The numbers have come largely above estimates, while names are the ones that are slightly lower as well. Gaurav is standing by to do the number crunching for us, as well as tell us what the brokerage verdict then is. Gaurav?
Well, yes. When it comes to ICICI Bank, we have seen a good set of numbers from the bank for second quarter of FY25. Specifically, when we talk about the asset quality, we have already seen that some of the banking peers are actually facing some kind of pressure in the asset quality. But when it comes to large banks like ICICI Bank, they have seen a stable asset quality for second quarter of FY25, and that was actually a key positive thing. When we talk about numbers, it was way above the estimates. When we talk about net interest income, that increased almost by 9.5%, while PPOP increased almost by 17% on a YY basis. We also saw profitability growing at a rate of around 14.5%, which was above the street's expectation. When it comes to advances and declines, there also we saw some kind of good set of numbers. We saw advances increase almost by 4% on a YY basis, while deposits increased almost by 5%, in line with what the street was expecting. One thing that was noticeable was that when we talk about net interest margins, there we saw a dip of around 9 basis points, a little lower than the street's expectation. But when it comes to overall asset quality, there the bank was stable, and that is the reason why we saw some positive trend coming up for the bank. Apart from that, when we talk about the brokerages also, they are also being a little bullish on the bank now. What we have seen is that some kind of upgrades are coming up for ICICI Bank, because when we talk about management commentary, they also said that NIMs are likely to stay stable, and at the same time they have seen some kind of delinquencies, but they say that because of the precautionary actions which were taken by the bank, they are at a good shape. So on the back of this, when we talk about brokerages, so now Nomura has hiked the target price to 1575 rupees. We also saw Jefferies hiking the target price to 1550 rupees. Investec has also come up with the target price of around 1450 rupees, which was earlier was at 1350 rupees. We saw Macquarie maintaining an outperform rating and a target price of 1350 rupees. But what they say is that this bank is actually passing the test and maintaining the growth trajectory. Lastly, when it comes to IIFL, what they have done is that they have upgraded the rating to buy and also hiked the target price to 1480 rupees. They have also highlighted one key point. What they have said is that the valuation premium for ICICI Bank versus its peers is actually narrowing, whereas when we talk about profitability growth, it is stronger than the peers. So that is one key thing that they have highlighted for ICICI Bank. So all in all, a strong set of numbers is coming up from the bank, a strong set of words coming up from brokerages as well. So definitely watching out on how it pans out for the investors of ICICI Bank.
Thanks very much, Gaurav. A strong set of numbers came in from, in fact, the private side of banks also. You talk about HDFC, Axis, only the IndusInd Bank which is disappointing. In fact, PSU Bank numbers, BOB, Bandhan Bank, they've also posted fairly good set of numbers. Let's see if this is able to lift up the sentiment for PSU banks. Moving on, amid the Diwali festivities and an uncertain market, we did caught up with the strategist and investor Safar Anand on his take on the markets. Let's listen in to his views.
I am a eternal bull. The question is, eternal bull can get a few bruises because you can't time the market to perfection. It may be possible that I like to buy something on Monday and it may fall. The question is that what is the ability of you to wither the fall, and if the fall is going to be 5 to 10%, many people react to that. 5 to 10% is nothing in a journey of wealth creation. So the question is, of course I will participate. We are going through certain problems. One is the persistent FII selling, but there are positives. India has, for example, just done a peace truce with China. Now the question is going to be what opportunity is seized by industry to do well. Some of the corporate earnings have not come to expectation. There is a slowdown in rural India. But it's not possible that with all the noise going on, I heard what Nestle had said, and before that Asian Paints had said it, and some Unilever results were not good, Bajaj Finance. I feel that these companies are fighters, and some of them will fight. Question is, I'm not an investor necessarily in large caps. So I'm going to find my niche small cap companies, mid cap companies, to keep a bandage in my pocket, and at the same time believe that in a period of time I should be able to make hopefully good returns.
So small cap and mid cap is something you would buy right now at this point?
It's easy, no? It's a plant that is growing, and the growth of the plant is never going to happen overnight. There will be times when, for example, you will find that the leaves is decayed or the plant didn't get adequate amount of water or sunshine is going. The question is, it's not a derailment of a story. Because if the story is derailed, the bottom of the pyramid doesn't grow, then India can't grow. Our growth is not going to come in from the 5%, it's going to come from the 95%. The opportunity lies there. And some of these guys, when they do well, will be subject matter of acquisition.
Alright, then can't time the market to perfection, and that's the word coming in from Safar Anand. Time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll take a look at the stocks that you should be keeping on your radar, so don't go anywhere.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe. Now let's just shift the focus to the stocks that would be in action today. Someet is here to tell us that what to expect from Bharti Airtel. That the telecom major Bharti Airtel is all set to report quarterly numbers today. Someet, tell us, is this going to be a surprise element just like Jio? And of course, the tariff hike, the impact, is it going to show up?
Well, Bharti Airtel is expected to report a strong set of numbers in the second quarter.
purely on the back of the tariff hike that the company had taken. Now, if you look at a consolidated basis, compared to last quarter, the revenues are expected to be up by nearly 7%. EBITDA is expected to be high by 11%. Margins are expected to come in at 53.2%, while the net profit number would be 6% higher on a sequential basis. Now, as I mentioned, amongst all segments of Bharti Airtel, it is the India mobile business that will be leading growth. And if you look at the India mobile business revenue, that is expected to be higher by around 16% on a sequential basis. Subscriber base is expected to be higher on a sequential basis, but this number could surprise on the negative side as well. ARPU number, which is the key number for the telecom business, is expected to be 11% higher at close to 235 rupees. Now, do remember that Bharti Airtel's ARPU is the highest in the street. Now, these numbers are showing a growth purely on the back of the tariff hike that the company had taken of around 15 to 20%, and analysts believe that the maximum benefit of this tariff hike will accrue for Bharti Airtel in the second quarter of FY25. Now, I was talking about the subscriber number. Now, though analyst consensus is showing an increase on a sequential basis, but this number could surprise on the negative side also, given the fact that the first 2 months of the subscriber number that has come in from TRAI is showing a decline, and this decline is largely because of the tariff hike. There could have been some churn amongst customer, so this number could surprise on the negative side, so keep an eye out for that. Apart from that, the home broadband business is expected to report a steady number on the back of the strong quarterly subscriber addition, while the enterprise business will also report a healthy growth. When it comes to the DTH business, we are expecting a muted set of numbers. Now, Airtel Africa, which accounts for nearly 26% of Bharti Airtel's consolidated operation, reported number on Friday, and it was a strong set of numbers. We had seen an 8% sequential growth as against analyst expectations of just 2% growth. So that number could be on the higher side for Bharti Airtel. Now, the key things to watch out for from Bharti Airtel numbers would be the capital expenditure outlay that the company has planned for FY25. What has been the progress on that? How has been the customer behavior post the tariff hike that they have taken? How are the market share trends looking like? And what has been the upgrade and update when it comes to 5G deployment would be important to watch from Bharti Airtel numbers.
Really, thanks, Amit, for that update coming in. So there you go. That's the update as far as Bharti Airtel is concerned in terms of what is really being penciled in for the second quarter. Moving on, then let's get to that list of stocks that we were talking about, the stocks that are likely to be buzzing away in trade. And Ria is standing by with just that snapshot.
Yes, good morning. So let's take a look at the stocks that are going to be in focus today. First up, we have Torrent Pharma on the back of its Q2 FY25 numbers. Now, they've reported an 8.5% growth in the revenue on a year-on-year basis. Even the net profit has gone up around 17% over the previous year, and the EBITDA almost 21% over the previous year, 27% actually. The EBITDA margin, if you look at that, there has been an expansion of around 468 basis points, coming in at 32.5% in this quarter. Now, the company has said that the insulin revenues have been impacted in this quarter due to the scheduled shutdown in the month of August for the maintenance activities in the plant. But this facility is going to be released for manufacturing in December, and the shortfall is significantly expected to be recovered in Q4 of FY25. So consequently, on a full year basis, there's not going to be any impact on the revenue. Adjusted for these plant shutdowns, the underlying revenue growth will be at 10%, and the operating EBITDA growth lies at 16%. Let's also talk about UTI AMC, which has reported a good set of numbers. The revenue growth has come in at 33.2% on a year-on-year basis. We've seen good growth in the EBITDA and the net profit also on a year-on-year basis, up around 50% and 44% respectively. And even the EBITDA margin has seen a huge expansion of 739 basis points in this quarter. Let's also talk about Texmaco Rail, which has again reported a good set of numbers. Revenue up around 67.2% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA up 73.4%. Even the net profit has seen a very big jump of around 233% over the previous year. If you look at the EBITDA margin, that has been quite consistent at around 9.8% in this quarter versus 9.4% in Q2 of last year. The company has also said that they are going to enter into the real estate segment in the future. So we're keeping an eye on Texmaco Rail on the back of that. Even Macrotech Developers, if you look at that, a good set of numbers in this quarter. The revenue has gone up around 50% and the EBITDA has gone up almost 70% on a year-on-year basis. If you look at the margins, that has also seen a big expansion of around 305 basis points in this quarter. Let's move on though to Dixon Technologies. We're keeping an eye out on that since they have incorporated a new wholly owned subsidiary called Dixon Electroconnect to manufacture and deal in all kinds of automatic components for EVs and the related equipment and components for that. Lastly, we're also keeping an eye out on Thermax since they have acquired 100% of Buildtech Products Private Limited for 72 crores, and this acquisition is actually going to help Thermax enter into niche infrastructure projects including tunneling and hydropower projects as well by enhancing the current product portfolio of construction chemicals. So definitely keeping an eye out on all of these stocks today.
All Right, thanks very much, Ria, for all those stocks that could be buzzing in trade today. Moving on, let's get you another nifty company which is set to report numbers today. Sun Pharma, that is all set to come out with a strong set of Q2 earnings, which should be backed by favorable seasonality as well as strong specialty sales. This is what Street is penciling in. In fact, the Street is not expecting a double-digit growth in the bottom line, but the top line as well. But then Srishti is here to tell us more on the breakup for Sun Pharma, what Street is expecting. Srishti.
Well, from Sun Pharma Q2 FY25 earnings, we are expecting a decent set thanks to the US and the domestic formulation business. When we talk about the US revenue, that's expected at $484 million, primarily due to the higher specialty sales, tad higher G-Revlimid sales, as well as continued ramp up in some of their other key products. When we talk about the domestic formulation business, that's also expected to grow 12% on a YOY basis for the quarter. And in terms of the overall numbers that are expected to be seen, the revenue is expected to show a jump of 5% sequentially at 13,242 crores, EBITDA expected at 3,639 crores, and that will be just flat growth on a sequential basis. While for the margins on a YY basis, yes, we can see an improvement of close to 1%, but on a sequential basis, there could be some bit of a decline, and 27.5% is what we are expecting. And lastly, onto the profit figure, sequentially, that too is expected to be just flat at 2,827 crores. When we talk about some of the other commentary, then definitely the commentary on the branded generics in the emerging and the rest of the markets is the key to watch out for, as well as the environment and the pricing environment in the US and the expectation going ahead with some of the other key monitorables.
All right, thanks Rishi for that update coming in. But with that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Priyanka Uppal, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for tuning in. You don't go anywhere because the market takes all of the action forward.